Welcome back to the Mastering Runeterra podcast with Jason, and today very special guest, WhatAmI. Bay is currently flying to go see his family. I don't know, in Florida or something. Yeah, they have Wi-Fi on planes now. I don't know what his deal is. Anyways, but we upgraded, so it's all good. And I have to cut that out. Here's a list of these.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. And before we jump into everything, though, we have to thank our patrons who support us and make all of this stuff possible. Thank you guys so much. You don't know how much we appreciate you. And also real quick before we get into the juicy stuff, make sure you go sign up for Mastering Runeterra 5K Championship Qualifier number 2 this Sunday at 9 a.m. If you go to masteringruneterra.com, there's a 5K Championship button at the top now in the header that has all the links in it, all the FAQ stuff, and also sometime very soon, hopefully by the time you're hearing this, it'll also have the sheet with all the points for the points race that we'll be updating as we go, which also FYI, we are doing by hand, manually, so make sure you go check that and just confirm that your points are good, because you never fucking know. Okay, let's get into it. So first off, welcome. WhatAmI, Jordan, for those who may not know you. I guess real quick, there's got to be some people that haven't heard of you. Give us the quick nutshell of all your accomplishments. There are many.
Oh God!
Hit the high notes.
All right. I've played in basically every seasonal. I got world's top 4. I think I've won almost every grassroots tournament out there at one point or another. And I haven't won anything actually, like won something in like 6 months, so I'm clearly washed up. So it's nice of Jason to have me on his stream anyway.
That's right. I felt bad for you to throw you, but he came
exactly.
in second. Came in second at the first qualifier.
Terrible.
Okay. Brought shame to the team, letting Blackboss win yet another. Blackboss is just ripping apart. I mean, everything really. That's
yeah.
Pretty impressive. That guy's killing it.
It was a really fun run. We did good. I felt like the lineup was really solid, and Blackboss very well deserved. And also, I played like a potato in that last match. If anybody is rewatching the VODs, I apologize to the viewers. We did our best.
Yeah, why don't we start there? Do you? Because I feel like you had a similar story in Worlds. And like I'll go first. I find it very nerve-wracking. Like playing in even just seasonals and the open rounds, a lot of the rounds, even if they're the early rounds, it doesn't matter. Like, especially if you're playing against a tough opponent or something, or like a tough matchup, like I feel it. I feel the stress. I feel the anxiety. You get the adrenaline pumping. And that can lead you to, make misplays or like just kind of my mind will go blank sometimes. I've been in high enough like profile or big enough stakes like Magic tournaments where my brain literally just broke. It just I'd have like 10 cards in hand, they'd have 10 cards in hand, we both have a million lands and like just a million plays possible. This is when I was playing Paulo Vito Rosa in the semifinals of a Grand Prix, and we just had a million cards, and I literally just I just broke. My mind was just like overloaded. I was like, I don't know, click things, just make decisions. And so I was curious if you're a seasoned veteran at this point. I was curious if you still feel any sort of nerves or anything, and if that like affects you at all, or just getting tired as well.
So for me, if anybody doesn't know, I stream basically all the tournaments that I play in, but I do not stream seasonals, and I wasn't streaming Worlds. I was, but it was all on like super crazy delay, and there were big breaks in between. And that's because my big like trick for dealing with that is between every round, I'll go and I'll take a 5-10 minute break, and I'll just disconnect from Runeterra and everything else and go, fuck it, I'm out. And then I just get to come back to the round fresh. When I'm streaming and I'm doing like streaming for 9 or 10 hours straight, and then at the end of the day I'm playing against this absolute god gamer Blackboss, there's definitely some mental fatigue that sets in. And trying to fight against it without being able to go and take those little breaks is definitely rough. And no excuses, right? Like you got to try to find the perfect plays all the time, but it's definitely a real thing. I don't think I get the nerves so much. Like, so my favorite quote on gaming from anywhere is from chess grandmaster Akiba Rubinstein. And this is sorry, do you mind if I tell like a cute story?
Bring it.
All right. So the chess grandmaster, one of the best chess players of all time, right? And the commentator goes to him, and he's going to be playing one of the few people who's beaten him before, like consistently in the next round. Chess commentator asks him, "All right, man, how are you feeling against the next round against this really, really tough opponent?" And the chess grandmaster replies, "Ah, yes, I have a very hard opponent in the next round. You see, in the next round, I will be playing against the black pieces." And it doesn't matter who you're playing against. It doesn't matter if you're playing against Alan or 364 Big Booty. Like whatever the name is, you got to find your best plays. So nerves don't get me, but mental fatigue does.
Yeah, totally. 364 Big Booty, by the way, my alt account.
My bad.
I'll have to change it now. 372 Big Booty. So a bunch of great things. I think I've heard you tell that story before, and it always reminds me of a quote by Kobe Bryant where they ask him about taking the shot at the like Game 7 for the win, last buzzer beater. Like, were you nervous? And he's like, no, I wasn't nervous. Had I not taken that shot a million times and made it a million times, I would be nervous. But I have done that. I've done the work, and so I wasn't nervous. And that, like, to me, is the thing. And the reason that I get nervous in seasonals is because I've never done the work. I'm always just showing up and like, okay, I'll get these 3 decks. One of them I played like 2 games on. And that's why I'm just like, oh, just white knuckling like my chair, my mouse, just like, okay, looking at their list, looking at my list, being like, trying to figure things out because I'm literally learning on the job at seasonals. And that makes it a lot more nervous. Whereas any tournaments I've gone in knowing my decks, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I don't feel nervous at all. And also really good point about getting up in between rounds. That's something that I also need to do. I need to disconnect between rounds. And so I stream with the camera off. That's another thing. That's so I can just get up and go. No one can see me. Another thing is also just having the camera on me if I'm playing, I find very nerve wracking. Or also weirdly, if I'm trying to record like a YouTube video or anything sort of scripted, I feel like everyone's looking at me.
It's because we are.
Okay. It's so strange though, because recording like this doesn't bother me at all. Or also maybe recording when I'm streaming on Twitch and the chat is there. Maybe because the stakes are lower. That might be different. But yeah, it's weird. So I do the same. I just turn the camera off, and then no one knows if I'm here or not. I could be like, in my underwear eating some Twizzlers or something, and like I can just be in my comfort place. So yeah, and then mental fatigue, and like that's one of the things I do to combat mental fatigue, right? Is to leave, is to like go like take a little rest, even go outside, get some fresh air, just walk around, get the body moving. Very very helpful. And if you're stuck streaming for just hours on end talking to people, you don't get that chance.
Like you go through the tournament games, and then you go and play ladder games in between, and then you go and like build people's decks in between. And there's no rest. And I love streaming. Don't get me wrong; it's super fun to hang out with people while I do all of this stuff. That's why I stream, right? Because I love the communities. But it's also, if I'm doing a really high stakes tournament like seasonals, like Worlds, then I want to be able to put on my best game, and I'm not doing that if I'm devoting all this extra attention to being on stage.
Yeah, 100%. So I forget what else I forget how we got into this tangent, but I'm gonna
We're just talking about recent tournaments.
That's right. Yes, we were doing the who are you? Yeah. So top 4 Worlds finisher, multiple, was it 5, 6 top 32s now?
I think I've missed 2. Out of all the seasonals, I've only missed 2. I was in top 32 of all the rest of them.
Yeah, and I think there's been 7.
There's been 7, so I think it's 5. I think that's it. There's been 7 or 8. I've gotten 5 or 6. I don't know, man. It's a lot.
A lot. So Tournament Crusher, also streamer, of course, writer of poetry, most importantly, man of many talents, really. And speaking of talents, you're quite the deck builder, which is something that, I give you massive props for, because I'm terrible at building decks. I'm just so bad at it. I have no idea. It's not my thing at all. And you come up with just like all kinds of stuff, like just like really wild decks. And the one that you just got number 1 on the ladder with was Ari, Kennen, Go Hard.
Yeah, Ari, Kennen, Go Hard. And like honestly, I think the same thing I'm talking about with the I don't get nerves is part of why I'm able to go and do the decks so well. Because you say I come up with all of these like really cool, crazy decks, but you also know, buddy, I played Sky's Descent. Like 9 out of 10 of my ideas are so bad, but you just got to be willing to hit every bad pothole along the way to find the good shit.
Yeah, I didn't say they were all good. I just say, but that's how you find the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like being an inventor. You're not just like, oh, hey, everything I invent's awesome. Like the old Thomas Edison, like, failed 99 times before he invented the light bulb or whatever.
I have now found 99 ways not to make a light bulb.
99 ways that Targon no longer works could have been a couple seasons ago. Definitely.
Yes. That's so true.
The name of a streamer, a YouTube video. But you are very good at it. Let's jump into this latest deck.
Yeah.
So really, So talk us through it. How, like, okay, Ari, Kennen, sure. But then, like, how did Gohards just get slammed in there? It makes no sense to me. Because, like, it's like kind of a nombo with the 4-drop. I always forget the name.
With Wayfinder.
Yeah, you like, oh my gosh. When I was playing random aside, I was playing Ezreal Kennen back before it got nerfed. And was like, going to win the game. I'm like, Wayfinder. Like, no, I have Ezreal in play. I have Ezreal in play already. It's like, no, miss. Ezreal's on top. Because those are the only cards you can hit on the Ezreal.
Yo.
I'm like, okay, that sucks. I don't have to win this game. I can't believe it. And it's like, opponent makes a misplay. It's like, oh, I'm still in it. Okay, next turn. Wayfinder again for the win. It's like, other Ezreal left out. I was like, oh, come on. 27 cards in my deck. And I'm like, Ezreal on the top. And every time you hit it, my opponents hit it all the time. Like, every time you did it, it was just like such a beating. And now here's this deck with extra targets. And you're making more of them. Like shuffling more back in. So, like, take me through the process here of how you even thought that this was a good idea. Because also, Gohard hasn't been like particularly good since it got nerfed. It's like basically I've seen no play whatsoever. So take me through this process.
So this process started. So actually, my first variation of this that I played with was Ari Kennen with the Gifts from Beyond and Eye of the Dragon package.
Right.
I started playing that deck. And I don't remember who exactly gave it to me. It was one of the other top level deck builders like, hey, this is a cool thing, go play it. I'm like, this looks awful, but I trust you, fine. So I went and I played a game with it. I played one game, and this was a 30-minute game in which I drew all 40 cards in my deck, and then won, and then deleted the deck because fuck that.
That was a good time.
Right? But the thing is, that got me to thinking. I'm like, okay, this is a ridiculously interactive deck shell that draws all of the cards and can stand up to basically anything for the entire game with all these stuns, recalls, denies. You can't even rally on this deck, right? And I'm like, okay, what if I took that and we thought of actually trying to win the game someday? And the thought process goes, if I'm drawing a billion cards, what loves to do that? And that was the thing that got me to test out Gohard. And the thing that this deck does now with Gohard in it is it's just kind of a pile of different alternate win conditions. Like, you actively do not have a main win condition. Like, you can level Kennen, you can level Ari, you can pack people's bags, you can just put a bunch of little elusives into play and smack them around until they fall over. Like, you don't have a win condition. This is kind of just the quintessential mid-range deck now, and I absolutely love this. I don't think I've had more fun playing a deck since Zoe Vi was around, and I was spamming that as hard as possible. This feels like playing Zoe Vi again, and I'm so in.
Yeah, you've always been a lover of the Targon piles, as we call them, aka just like a bunch of cards that create value and do stuff, and just eventually you just get them somehow. Like, you just slow them down. It's like they run through quicksand until they just like give up, and just like you just like push them over. Like, you did that.
And even more than that, it's the build your own win condition, right? It's the deck where every single turn, and often multiple times a turn, you have all of these crazy decision points, and you're trying to figure out what you're doing and what your role is in the matchup all the time. And that is the most fun thing in card games for me. I love playing those decks.
Yeah, I do as well. But it's really difficult to do, and a lot of times you'll get punished for a while. But then once you like figure it out, And once you become really proficient with a deck like that, it generally is very powerful. Like Zoe Vi was a deck that really rewarded you for, you know, knowing it inside and out and knowing how to play all the different matchups. Most of the piles are. And so how do you feel about the deck now? Because like, well, it was like 2 days ago that you climbed up to first on the ladder, I think.
Yeah. So I haven't played it. I haven't played it that much recently. I played it a whole bunch that first day. I actually played it before the patch drop too. I'd been testing this deck before the big hot fix, and I just kind of went, okay, well now Kennen Ezreal is gone, so the other big Kennen deck is gone. This has to have gotten better, right? There's no way this hasn't just gotten better. And it was very correct, because this was a deck that was already running Droplet and Kennen, so Wayfinder hitting doubles, that's great for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
How I think about it right now, I mean, it feels like it's a tier 1 deck. I'm not trying to flex here. I realize I'm going to accidentally, but I was talking with people who were asking me why I'm not putting this in my tournament lineups, and I haven't lost enough with this deck to know what its bad matchups are, so I can't make a lineup for it. I have 2 losses with this deck on ladder ever. 2 out of like 20-25 games. So I don't know what the matchup tables are, so I can't put it in my tournament lineups yet. So I think it's a pretty good deck.
That's like not exactly true. Something's actually tier 0. That means you can just put it in with anything. Like Ezreal Kennen would have slotted into just about anything. TF Fizz would have slotted into just about anything. I really want you to slot it in because I want to find out. I want to see if this deck's really good or not. Because I think it's a fine deck. But I want more proof, basically, right? I
don't think it's a tier 0 deck. That's not what I'm saying. I think it's a very good deck that I have had a really good run of RNG with. So my testing is not sufficient for me to feel comfortable putting in a tournament lineup. I feel like the deck is solid, but also I've been getting too lucky to feel comfortable knowing how good it is.
I see. Yeah, no, I understood that you weren't saying it was tier 0, but I see now, because the tournaments that you're going to be playing in, I assume like, oh, there's actually the one today that I forgot about.
Yeah. Yep. Later tonight.
We're recording this on Thursday. Because those are important tournaments that you want to win. I was just like, oh, it's just like some tournament lineup, just like throw it in there and go have fun. But you let your team down. Because one of the big advantages of a deck like that has, a very rogue deck, is that people don't know how to play against it, and they will make lots of mistakes, and they will misjudge things. A lot of times you'll see a deck like hit the scene, have a lot of success, and then people started to figure out a little bit and like bring it back down to like a more reasonable level, which is kind of what I assume will happen with this deck, and why I asked how it's been going. Have you been playing it much over the last 2 days? Have you been playing on this? No,
I have taken. So I think it was yesterday. Actually, I was on stream yesterday. I did the climb up to rank 1 yesterday, and I haven't played it all since then. But I will probably be. I'll do the tournament today, and I may do some laddering with it after. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm. There's definitely a lot of power there for sure, undeniably. And leveling Ari is some of the most fun I think I've ever had playing the game.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious to see where it ends up. Because the go hards to me, they make no sense. They make no sense. I get it, and like, yeah, sometimes they're awesome, and it can be a very powerful effect, but I'm like, it just logically makes no sense to me.
Well, think about it this way: you're playing a deck that is just a pile of different disruption effects and win conditions, and Go Hard is just also a disruption effect and a win condition. And a lot of the time, one of 2 things is true. Either you won't have a really good opportunity or feel like you need to play your Go Hard before turn 4, so you can play King Cow Wayfinder without shuffling anything in first, or you really, really needed to kill something and you don't fucking care if your odds are going down.
Okay. If I had to bet on it, I'm willing to be wrong, but I would bet that by the end of, well, I guess we're gonna hit the patch before we I was gonna say the end of the season.
There is no end of the season. It's gonna hit January. And nobody knows what the fuck is gonna happen.
Yeah. Speaking of, okay, well, hold on before I go on that tangent. Anyway, long story short, I'm like, I think a version of the deck ends up without Go Hard and ends up being better. That's my guess.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's 2 possible versions of this deck that could be tier 1, or I'm missing something, which, I am perfect. but I think there's two possible versions of the deck that could actually be tier 1, and it's either the version I'm on right now with Go Hard, or it's a version with Aegis, where you cut the 3 Go Hards and you play either 2 or 3 Aegis, and you just play it as a rally deck instead. But I have won so many games with Pack. I'm feeling pretty good about the Go Hard version for now, but I definitely think the rally version is also worth testing.
Yeah. Is there a world where you just don't splash?
I don't think so, because the splashes are all so powerful. Like, it's nice to have 100% on Wayfinder instead of having a couple percent to miss, but the splashes are so powerful, I don't think you ever don't want those, because whether it's Rally or Go Hard, I see someone trying out a Mind Meld where you put in a 1 of Mind Meld and your pod searches it out, but I think some kind of splash is going to have such a ridiculous power level that it's worth those few percentages where you miss your Wayfinders. And the interesting thing, as you were talking about, you had to get really unlucky that game you were describing, because you get to miss with Wayfinder more than once in this deck. If I miss with a Wayfinder, I can recall it and try again next turn.
Yeah. And Wayfinder's not as big of a deal, I find, in this deck that it was in like Ezreal Kennen, where you had to hit the Kennen to like go off.
Yeah.
It's like super important.
It's think of it as Super House Spider. It's House Spider that got ripped for summer.
That's actually a really good example. I like that. Yeah. Well, I'm really interested to see where it goes. Are there any other decks that I want to talk about the upcoming patch a little bit, but hold on. I want to continue on to say no. What other decks do you think are doing particularly good right now? Maybe give us your thoughts on the meta in general, like hits and misses, things people think are good but aren't. Opposite.
GP Sedge is still a really good deck. People who are sleeping on that deck, that is still very, very powerful. As long as that is true, Lee Sin is also going to be a very good deck, and so is Thralls, because those are two of the like only really solid counters to GP Sedge. I think Lee Sin with Dragon is in the strongest place it's ever been, and so a lot of tournament lineups are kind of keying in on that, and they're saying, we're going to ban Lee Sin, we're going to target Lee Sin, we're going to figure out what we're doing about that, because right now, if you are not hard targeting Lee Sin, you kind of are losing to it. And I think that's, I think a lot of people haven't been playing Lee on ladder, but I think it's a little bit of a gentleman's agreement right now. Like, nobody wants to be the first person to default to the nuclear option and try to start climbing, because then everybody will.
How bad is it that I've only played Lee basically all this season?
Not bad. I also played Lee I played Lee to Master, I think. I played Lee to Master, and then I switched to the Ari Kennen stuff.
Yeah, I think before the hot fix, I was playing a lot of different stuff up to Master, and then I went to Lee, and then I think after the hot fix, I tried a bunch of stuff that I was just losing with, and I just went back to Lee. It was like, yeah, fuck it. I also just need to put more reps in with Lee.
I think, as far as what do people think is good and isn't, I think Panth is getting a little bit overrated. Like, I get that he's hot, I get that he's new, but like every time I see a Panth deck, I'm like, what if I played either Sivra or Lee Sin instead? Like, whichever direction you're taking this deck, I can do better with one of these two.
Yeah. I'm just always like, I don't know, a little bit unimpressed by the deck. It can do very powerful things, but
if like, honestly, Pantheon feels like the halfway point between Sivra and Lee Sin, and they both just do what he does better in their respective decks. Yeah. Like, I'd rather just have my power unit have Spell Shield, or I'd rather actually just win the game when I get my combo done. Right?
Yep. What do you think of the new, I don't know if they're that new, but the tree decks now that they can play all 10 regions?
I think Mantle Tree is actually a pretty solid place to be right now. I think especially if you're on 2 or even 3 Minimorphs, that's one of the really good ways to beat Lee Sin. So I actually expect to see kind of a resurgence of Tree in tournament formats, if not that much in ladder. I think it's still a little bit awkward in ladder, because any kind of like mid-range deck, like the Ari Kennen that I've been playing, or any kind of like solid GP aggro-based deck, still kind of just runs them over. But I do think that as a tournament lineup deck, I think Tree is very solid. I kind of feel the same way about Darkness, honestly. Like, any of the solid Minimorph control decks, I think, are in good spots to be brought as part of tournament lineups, though I still don't know if I would advise playing them on ladder right now.
Yeah, I've had a real hard time beating Tree with the Lee, for sure. because they also run like scorched earths, a lot of them now and stuff. So they have like
Yeah.
a lot of answers.
And the other thing is the new Lee decks have taken out Solari Priestess, and that's a lot of the reason you were able to beat those other decks, right? Because Solari commenting their tree just gave you all the time in the world you needed to find second Lee and beat Minimorph.
Yeah, Dragon's really nice and all, but Priestess does a lot of work. And if the meta shifts in the right ways, I think I might need to.
Yeah, we might be going back to Priestess.
Yeah,
She is a boss.
yeah, card's very good. What about the now nerfed Yordle decks with like the new 2-drop and new 4-drop that pump everything up? Do you think there's going to be a home for them somewhere?
I think that there's probably some kind of very powerful Poppy Rally deck still, because just attacking 3 times and reading you win the game is still a pretty okay champion. I don't know if it's necessarily Yordle based. I don't think it needs to be Yordle based. I think I'd probably look at Poppy Zed. I mean, I was running Poppy Teemo Yordles in Arms last season, so I think that deck is still probably solid. But I think you are less all in on the Yordles now than you are just looking to do broken things with Poppy and rallies, and I think that's fine. I think it'll just be a solid Demacia deck. It may just be Poppy Misfortune, honestly. I would not be surprised if Poppy Misfortune is the best place to do that, because then you have either of your champions that are just trying to attack a bunch and are happy to win the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of which is like scouts, right?
Yeah, just Poppy Misfortune scouts.
Yeah. So I was impressed that both the finalists from seasonals had scouts, even though that deck like wasn't really seeing a lot of play. Where do you think that might be now? Like I still haven't seen it really.
It's a meta call, because the thing is, in seasonals and on ladder, scouts is often just a weaker version of other rally decks. But specifically in seasonals, it was able to slightly better target the harder control decks. And it was a very good meta call, because in seasonals, basically everyone was on either Gangplank or hard control targeting Gangplank, and going for the rally pile is a really good way to punish that.
Yeah, for sure, and it paid off. It did quite well for them.
That was very solid.
Yeah. What about like Thralls right now? I know like Thralls is solid. It's good into Plunder. What do you think of it in general, though?
I think it's still a very solid deck. In fact, I will be playing it tonight. My current tournament lineup, I have not changed it yet from the one that I finaled the Mastering Runeterra tournament with. I'm on Thrallsley FTR. I like the idea of being able to just lay the smack down on all of the little mid-range decks and feel good doing it. And I think I may need to be switching off that as Lee gets more of a target on its back, because I am definitely not the guy who wants to sit here and say, yeah, I know I'm playing the best deck. Come at me, bro. That's not usually my style. I'd rather be the targeter than the targetee.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to me about Field of Rush, because you've been on this for a while now, and like I don't really get it. Like I never lose to Field of Rush decks. Like I don't like, to me they feel like I don't know, like just not good. They feel like kind of a joke right now. But you just seem to keep crushing with this deck. I don't really understand. I don't play it in tournaments though, so it's like a little bit different.
So it's definitely a tournament deck, not a ladder deck. I do not bring Field of Rush onto ladder because it has some serious problems. But in a tournament, what Field of Rush does is it has a strong, like when I'm looking for tournament lists, the very first thing I ask is, does this have a strong linear game plan, and does it target what I want to target? Field of Rush says, we get to turn 8 or 9, I'm just going to attack you for 20 fucking overwhelm damage. Boom, we good. And we also have Actro. That's strong linear game plan, right? And that doesn't target what I want it to target. It's very good into GP Sedge. It's very good into kind of any non-Ionia mid-range deck, right? You show up with GP Sedge, you show up with Scion, you show up with any kind of slower Yordle deck. It's just gonna walk all over that. And it's also very hard to play, if I'm being realistic. FTR is a deck that rewards the reps, because it's not just another SI Freljord deck, because figuring out when you're supposed to turn the corner with this deck, and when you're supposed to be trying to protect your units versus trading them, and what you care about with this deck is really hard, even though it looks like just another control deck.
Yeah, fair enough. There's one other deck. Oh, what do you think of all like the Shellfolk decks? Because like I don't know what to make of Shellfolk decks. They like they had quite a bit of success last season in like a bunch of different shells.
Shells, haha.
And then we come to this season, and they haven't really got hit by any of the nerfs, right?
Yep.
But yet I haven't really seen very much of them.
So the reason for that is the two prime shell, and I think you're about to start seeing more of them because the new Shellfolk deck just popped up that I may be trying on stream today because it looks pretty sick. There's a Nami TF Shellfolk deck that's been floating around, courtesy of Drizzoth, that is looking like some pretty unreasonable garbage. So we're gonna be looking into that a little bit. But I think the big thing is they kind of got side hit by both the nerfs and the meta because the two best Shellfolk decks were Poppy Lux, courtesy of Cephalopod, and the Poppy kind of got nerfed out of that deck. It's just not really a good card anymore. And while it wasn't the most important card in the deck, having that secondary win condition was a really big deal. And then the other one was the Glorious Evolution Shellfolk deck, right? And the problem with playing Glorious Evolution Shellfolk is that everybody's playing Deny. And trying to resolve a 10-mana slow spell on a ladder filled with Deny is not a fun time. So I think the deck is very powerful, and as the meta continues to shift, we'll probably see it more. And I think that anytime you watch Aikido play anything, you're probably going to see it more. But I think those are my reasons for why I expect it has not been as popular, even though it didn't really get touched. It is a powerful deck.
Yeah, that makes sense. I forgot about the Poppy nerf hitting Poppy Lux. And then what about like some of the old staples? What about like Sivir Action and like Scion Draven?
So Scion has been a little bit outclassed recently, and the reason for that, I think, is because Ionia is so prevalent, and Scion just traditionally does not do well into Ionia, right? If I'm trying to play a 7-mana unit that loses to all of these different 4-mana Ionia stop spells, and then I just die to elusive damage, that's no fun. And if the Scion deck is only playing the aggressive plus burn side of its game plan, then it is just not a very powerful deck. It has to be in a meta where Scion also matters. And right now, everybody's ready for Scion. And I think if we get into a meta where there are less of these stuns, recalls, freezes, Scion can show back up and kick some ass because that card is still busted as fuck. But right now, kind of everybody be ready for him, so he's having a hard time.
Yeah, lots of wills, lots of stuns. Yeah, lots of homecomings.
Yeah.
What about Action Sivir?
Akshan Sivir always gets forgotten about. Akshan Sivir is like the preeminent deck that everyone, as we're talking about things, goes, oh wait, this is tier 1, isn't it? And then it shows up, and Akshan Sivir is one of the hardest decks to play in the game. I've put in, like, unreasonable amounts of hours trying to train myself with that deck, and I still fuck up my lines sometimes. And I think that it's always going to be a solid tournament deck. It's always going to be very good against people who are bringing these greedy control piles, and it's often going to be a mid-range powerhouse. I think that Akshan Sivir is, at least unless something changes, always going to be tier 1 or tier 1.5, and people are going to forget about it until seasonals, and then it's going to come back and kick ass.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's funny how decks do that. Hey, there's always sort of these decks.
Yeah,
I feel like Fiora Shen was like that a little bit at the beginning.
Yep.
Like you wouldn't see on the ladder too much, and then tournament would show up, like, oh, I'll be everywhere.
Exactly.
Just sleep on it. Speaking of the ladder, though, what do you think of this like ladder meta right now? Do you think it's pretty wide open, or
wait? You think there's a meta? There are decks. I think we're 2 days post patch, and calling this a meta is being extremely generous. I'm playing.
The meta is like whatever people are playing, and so like there's definitely decks that are like.
But it's too spread out. Like honestly, I'm Kenanari Go Hard, TF Nami Shellfolk, Riven Pantheon Taric. Kenan Ezreal is still around. GP said, I saw Sivir, I saw Burn, I saw somebody playing FTR. Like, what do you mean meta? I mean, the answer to your question is yes. I think it is extremely wide open, and it is the most wide open it's ever been. But I think it's so wide open, I don't even know if I can... Dragons has been huge. I don't know if I can even quantify it as having a metagame yet.
Well, I mean, that is the meta, though, right? Like, it is extremely wide open. That's what the meta is.
Fair enough.
That's like, it's like what's being played. A lot of things. What's being played. Only TF Fizz. That is the meta. Like,
yeah, okay. I mean, I guess I also missed a few, right? Lee, Thralls, Tree. I don't know. There's a lot.
Yeah. Because like you say, it is very early, but like, very quickly, what'll happen, what typically happens is someone or some people will start crushing with like look at like Ezreal Kennen, right? Ezreal Kennen took
Yeah.
off. It was winning, it was winning, it was winning, it was winning. I looked at the European ladder. It was like 8 of 10 of the top 10.
God.
Ladder. It was ridiculous. And like the one person at the top was like trying new stuff. And now obviously that happens quickly, right? As soon as someone starts taking off of the deck, like, oh, I've won 20 games, something, it's like everyone, people start noticing really quickly, right?
Yeah.
So like, so give me your thoughts on like, where do you think the meta is headed? Do you think like, because Lee has a lot of counters. I don't think Lee is going to be like,
Lee cannot stay on top of a metagame. He's physically not capable of it. Like, anytime Lee is on top of a metagame, people will just start packing triple mini morph decks and they'll kick him in the face until he runs away again.
Yeah.
Like, I think that the top of the meta is going to probably include GP Sedge. I think that's just going to be a really strong fucking deck. I would not be surprised if one of the like latest 2 really powerful decks to show up makes it there. Either some version of Ari Kennen, whether it's Go Hard or Rally, and this new TF Nami, TF Fizz, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those 2 makes it. And I think the thing is, anytime people forget about Lee, it'll come back. So there's always going to be some Lee players, right? And kind of the same with Sivir. But I think those are like the things we're looking at moving up right now. There's a couple of really new powerful decks that people are looking at. I think Pantheon is probably going to start to taper off as people realize he's not that good. But other than that, I'm not sure about Dragons. That's the one that I'm not sure I can make a call on yet. Because there's a chance that deck is really good. And I don't know yet.
Yeah, did it gain anything from the new cards that came out?
I mean, White Flame.
Right, White Flame, yeah, which is pretty good.
Yeah. At like White Flame, the fact that White Flame is A, a 3-drop dragon, which they needed, and B, draws you 2 cards off of Dragon Chow is a little busted.
Oh, because it doesn't kill it.
It doesn't kill it. So your Dragon Chow is a draw 2 now.
That's pretty busted.
Yeah, what mana draw 2? Where have I heard that being a good card?
Nah, doesn't sound good. Yeah. I played against Dragons. I think it was Nick Nick's plays. I think I was playing Lee or no, maybe something else. And I thought I was just gonna run right through him. Oh, I was playing Thralls, I think. Which I guess is maybe not as good of a matchup as I thought it would be. But the deck impressed me. Like it was like very powerful, as like it seemed like it was gonna be when they originally buffed the clutch.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was gonna be like crazy. Like the deck looked like so insane, and then just didn't quite pan out. Probably because like Poppy Rally was so good. But yeah, I can see it. I can see it making a comeback. Have you seen it having some success? Have you tried it at all?
I have not gotten a chance to play with it. As I said, I have been very focused on this Ari Kennen Go Hard thing I've been messing around with. That's kind of been my baby these last couple days. But Dragon is on my list. Some form of Zoe Vi may be on my list. I think putting Ayula on a Vi sounds fucking hilarious.
Ayula?
The 3-mana 3/3 that gives something Overwhelm and Spell Shield for a turn.
Oh, on a Vi. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably a little memey, but it sounds like it could be fun.
No, not at all. I'm sure it's definitely very reasonable. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about something more wholesome now. I heard you started some Twitter beef. Tell me more.
More wholesome Twitter beef. Yeah. I may have had it up to, here or so with the amount of whining that I have been getting lately from the top Runeterra streamers. Like, I'm not going to put out names. I don't need to target nobody, but yeah, it's true. Clearly I'm talking about Mr. Jason here. But I feel like the idea that it's okay to just sit there and badmouth either the cards or your luck or whatever else, and just this constant negativity has finally gotten to me. And I guess I went out into the world and I asked, hey world, am I the only one who feels this way, or is this actually a problem? And so far the world's pretty divided on that. So we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting topic. And so so people are unhappy with like what, the current cards, or
sometimes it's a card.
Ken and Ezreal was busted, and a lot of people were not happy about that. I know, and like I could, we hadn't gotten there yet. Wherever like if we had like a month or 6 weeks of that, like,
sure,
yeah, everyone would have been like, but you're talking about kind of like more generally, right?
Yeah, but like it's a card that they don't like, or it's a deck that they don't like, or it's saying they got ridiculously unlucky, or it's not owning up to having done something wrong or made a misplay. And it's just this lack of objectivity. That's what it is that gets me, right? It's instead of trying to look at things for what they are, they're looking at things to try to do whatever paints them in the best light. And I get it, right? I get that these people are performers for a living. That's what you do. But on some level, you are a performer, but you're a performer being a real person, and you are setting the example kind of for your entire community. If the example is, I should look for everything that makes me look good and pretend I didn't do the things that make me look bad, that does not go well when you start applying that to the real world.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's
And
also not a good way to become a good player, right? Like, if every time I make a mistake, I'm like, oh, it was just the bad cards, I don't know what was going on, then I'm not going to get better, right? I'm just going to do the same thing over and over.
yeah, well, I mean, I know personally, I either win or I get unlucky. Those are the only options. But okay, so do you think there's been like an uptick? Did something change? Is there more recently, or has this been slow? Has it always been the same? I'm curious what like your
It's
feelings
been,
are.
I feel like it's been just building more and more over the past like 3 or 4 months or so. Like, it used to be that there were like one or two people who I had a little bit of a problem with, and like I'd go off their stream, I'd come back in half an hour, they'd be better, right? And now it just feels like it's a lot of the community, and like I can't find someone who I'm comfortable watching because they won't stop whining about things.
Interesting.
It's rough, man.
Yeah. Do you think that? So I mean, let's talk about the last 3 or 4 months. Like,
Yeah,
basically, because there's a lot of things have happened or like not happened. Um,
sure.
I know, like, so to go back 3 or 4 months, we're talking around worlds, and
Yeah.
definitely some.
Worlds got fucked. Okay, I'm not gonna argue that.
Uh-huh. And then so like this is how I see it in my head. Like if you like look at the year, things started off let's see, we started with seasonals almost practically at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
We had a couple of those. They were cool and exciting. And we complained about them being single limb basically. They changed it to the 9 round format.
which was
That
awesome.
was super awesome. And then they announced Worlds shortly thereafter, and then we had 3 of those into Worlds. And then, like, it kind of fell off a cliff for me in some ways. Like, Worlds had a lot of issues, a lot of good things also. The
Yeah,
top 16 that you guys played in was
it was
just
fucking awesome.
fucking delight to watch. It was so good. Qualifiers up to that point, a little fucked though. But then also, like, I guess, managing expectations being very important to your happiness in life, yada, yada. I was kind of expecting that they were going to be like, announce what was happening after Worlds
Yeah.
and hype some shit up because that's typically what you do.
So
And
I think
instead-
this is a thing that is the way Riot handles a lot of their games. If you look at the way the League of Legends scene works as well, where they have the couple month downtime period, like they do the really big event and then they kind of just go to sleep for a little while. And I'm not going to comment on whether I think that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that seems to be a consistent thing they do with a bunch of their games. And I think we're kind of all crossing our fingers for the big announcement come January.
yes, for sure. Shoot, what was I gonna say? There's one other thing. Oh, this is the other thing.
Yeah.
It also coincided with this time period after Worlds. So we got no announcement for a while, and then we finally got the hey, guess what? In I don't know 3 months or something, we're gonna have a new announcement. Which, dear God, Riot, please crush it. But also there was that huge gap there where we didn't have any new cards for
Yeah.
forever.
Sure.
Also at the same time, and then also this is something that I've noticed that like I haven't noticed people talking about is remember all the cool videos that they used to put out with what are those two guys, the two guys names that were like the creators or whatever, they did that. Who's the head designer, Why am I so bad with names?
I can't help you, buddy. I'm sorry.
Okay. Anyways, so they would release like videos that were like, "Hey, this is what's going on." There was one where they talked about the whole like journey of them making LOR. Do you remember that one at all? No, they were going to launch it back in the day, and then Hearthstone came out. It was called something else like Bread or I can't remember. Anyway, so they made a whole video about it, dude. You gotta. How do you not watch the video? Anyway,
I don't watch things. I don't watch things in general.
I've heard. Yeah. So apparently, Jordan told me before we got on that he had yet to actually watch or listen to one of our podcasts.
Okay. That's just because I don't consume media. That's not a comment on you guys. I don't watch TV either.
You're literally part of our team. You couldn't give us like, I wonder what they do on there. It's fine. Anyways, long story short, Runeterra and a lot of other games typically release updates, right?
Yeah.
Like, little videos, little, hey, this is what's coming, little like how about with TFT? There's what's his name? Riot Mort
Dog.
That guy's like on Twitter like crazy. He's just like, I see more stuff about TFT from him than I do from Runeterra.
You're not wrong.
Long story short, it's been like radio silence. Like we're doing articles on Ruben's streams because that's where we get most of our information. You know what I mean, right? I'm not wrong.
I feel you.
So there's this weird thing that happened where all these things coincided, where we got no new cards for months. We had no announcement about organized play or anything after Worlds, which was kind of also had some issues. And then also there's just been like radio silence for like, it feels like, I don't like 6 months, even leading into Worlds, there was a radio silence, and that was a big problem. So
I'm not saying that they don't need to hire someone to communicate with the community better. I don't hear me saying that. There either is or should be a job opening over at Riot HQ for yo talk to people dumbass. But I don't think I should be writing job descriptions.
I would fill that dumbass role so well. And so what I'm wondering though is, do you think these things that I just mentioned, because they correlate along with that last 3 or 4 month like uptick?
Sure.
Do you think that they play some part in that? Like, we had stale meta, we had no new fun news, and we had no like. There's not a lot of back and forth of like getting that stress out or like being heard stuff. Not to say they don't do anything, because there's also like there is communication, there is some stuff going on.
Yeah.
But there could definitely be some more. And
if what you're saying is, do I think there are also reasons behind it? Yes, and that's why I waited 4 months before getting angry about it. Do I think that is sufficient to excuse it? Not really. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I'm not trying to excuse it. What I was trying to figure out is like, is this like a symptom of a problem? Or is it just something that's like kind of just always there, and
it's both.
We had enough of it.
It's both.
It's both, right?
I think it is both. I think you can both look at it as the increase in this is a symptom of other problems, and also the fact that this is something. The reason people do this and the reason people get away with it, and people have told me this is actually literally people's streamer persona. Like, this is what people do, is because we as a community or we as people have decided that's the kind of content we want. And the idea that we're looking for this, excuse my French, we're looking for this bitchy content. I'm not here for it anymore. And I finally had to say something about it. And now I'm going to go back to shutting up, and it'll all be fine, and nothing's going to change, but I had to say something.
So if I'm hearing you correctly here, I'm just taking some notes. Bitch about get more views. So I would just like to say, Lee Sin is a real blight on the game. With aggro decks and rally decks.
Oh my god.
And then also anything from Freljord's probably stupid.
I gotta go do the tournament. My team's doing light up talks.
All right, bro. Thank you so much for being on the show. And everyone go sign up for the tournament. And we'll see you guys again next week.